Good evening. I'd like to welcome you to Citizen Joe. This evening I have with me two people involved in agriculture, farming in the Hudson Valley. Many of you probably are familiar with the Greig farm, and Norman Craig is joining me.
Good evening.
And also, I'm sure many of you in the supermarkets have seen Hudson Valley Fresh Products, and Dr. Sam Simon is with me, and he is the president of Hudson Valley Fresh, but he is also not only an orthopedic surgeon, but also a farmer, a dairy farmer. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. Thanks for joining me this evening, and I would like to start, we have dairy and fruits and vegetables here, but I'd like to sort of, I did some research in this area. Some of you may have seen a book I wrote called Hudson River Valley Farms. And I was so impressed with the people I interviewed who own these 44 farms from Westchester to Albany that I just had no idea how complex the business of farming is. And I thought some of us should get more familiar with the people behind the products that we love. So anyway, Norman, why don't you start a little bit about your family. It is a family farm and it goes back some years.
The Greig farm is a second-generation family farm. My parents started in 1942. We were fruit and dairy for years. We milked 60 cows, which I sold those cows in 1998 to make room for a winery. We also do pick-your-own fruits and vegetables. In season, asparagus, strawberries, peas, blueberries, blackberries, raspberries, apples, and pumpkins. So we're open for pick your own every day from the 1st of May through the end of October.
I see. And the Allison Winery was the winery that you had there. Is that correct?
Yes, and they're doing just wholesale now instead of retail, and so we've taken over some of that space and opened a Hudson Valley Farmers Market, which is I think the first market in the state that's on a farm. This is not a farm market, it's a farmers market where we have 28 vendors, and they're all farmers who bring their product
and when do you do that?
To the farm. That's every Saturday from 10 to 3, but it's the only market that's on a farm run by farmers.
Mm-hmm. No, that's interesting. And Dr. Simon, tell me how you got from the surgery room, the operating room, the OR, to the farm, or vice versa, from the farm to the OR.
Well, I was born and raised on a farm, so I've been milking cows a long time, more than 55 years. But when I was a freshman in medical school, my father died, and we had a dairy farm, and that was our only source of income. And I continued the family farm in Middletown, New York, and Orange County. I finished my training, moved to Poughkeepsie to be closer to the dairy farm. At that time, when my father died, my mother was 42, and had a sister who was 9 and 17. But having said that, continued farming and maintained the farm and the practice here in Poughkeepsie until the early 80s. And then in late 90s, I decided life was no dress rehearsal. My father had died at a young age. My mother had ovarian cancer at a young age. And I always enjoyed the cattle. Somebody offered to buy my practice, and opportunity knocked. I sold it, and then I started a registered dairy herd in '99. And I realized the plight of the dairy farmer in this area was they're not getting enough for their money, for their milk. And we were getting awards for the quality of milk, and it was very nice, a $250 check at the end of the year. Doesn't cover the difference in cost. And it came to, they were paying a 30-cent premium per 100 weight of milk, which is 8.5 gallons.
What does that mean?
That's 8.5 gallons.
Mm-hmm.
And that you needed $3 more, not 30 cents more. So I said, we have a premium product. I knew there were 2 or 3 other farmers who were getting awards. I'm sure there were more, but I knew 2 or 3, and I said, we need to segregate our milk under our own label. That was the challenge. And I took on that challenge, and presently we are 9 family farms, 2,000 milking cows with 8,000 acres of open space, selling Hudson Valley fresh milk only from those family farms that meet very strict quality criteria. Milk quality is measured objectively, not by a packet, but really by measuring the white count or the somatic cell count in the milk. And the industry realizes quality milk has a somatic cell count under 200,000.
What is this somatic
It's
cell
like the
count?
white cell count in your blood. It's the same thing. And when you go to the doctor and he takes a blood count, he's looking for the red cells, the white cells, platelets. You do the same in the milk. You can check the white cells and they'll tell you, is the cow under stress, is there infection? And if it's elevated, something's going on. The environment, it has a lot to do with management and the environment the cow is living in. So,
Are they the commercial distributors of milk under generic labels or whatever? Are they able to sell milk with a lower standard than?
yeah, the standard is based on a white count, the somatic cell count, up to 750,000 is acceptable.
And what do yours have?
Under 200,000, we
Uh-huh.
actually average 120,000.
Now, I've had your products. I've had the yogurt and I've had the milk. They are superior.
Yeah.
And my only complaint is that I can't get it in Ulster County when I go grocery shopping at Hurley Ridge Market or Emmanuel's or any of these places. And I guess you're not crossing the river with
No, we're in the manuals, they just happen to run out, they just have to order more. That's the secret there. High Falls, you know, we allow them to order what they want, we deliver every week, but,
Oh, that's funny. So,
So
it's
we do
very
it. It's
popular.
there.
No,
It's
the yogurts, I'm not even a big yogurt lover, but your yogurts are better than some ice creams I've had. And they're very rich and they're flavorful. And I mean, I was somewhere doing a book signing in Poughkeepsie. I think it was Cafe Boca. And someone came in who was with your stuff and just gave me a sample. And I said, well, where can I get this in Ulster County? And there was dead silence.
well,
But,
we'll educate them.
But anyway, are you in Rhinebeck? Where do you distribute?
We're in all the Stop and Shops in Dutchess County, Hannaford's, we're in all the Adams,
Oh, you
those are
are.
the main stores.
In
We're
Adams and Kingston?
Kingston,
Okay.
Poughkeepsie, Wappingers, Beacon, or Newburgh.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so we're in all the major stores, and the product has grown, significantly over the past 6 years, and our main, I'd say 60% of our product goes now towards the New York City metropolitan area.
Mm-hmm.
And we have two big distributors who pick up in Kingston, and the popularity continues to grow. And what it means is sustainability for the farmers, because the intent was to give the farmer a fair price for his product. They all work hard, 7 days a week, 70 hours a week, easy, but they don't get paid. Now, the farmers under Hudson Valley Fresh, whatever's sold under the Hudson Valley Fresh label, today they're guaranteed $23 a hundredweight, 23 cents a pound, which is close to $2 a gallon at the farm. When you realize in 2009 the farmers were receiving $11 and $12 a hundredweight, when it cost them $20 to produce it, how long can you last?
So that's why so many of the farms in Dutchess
Disappear.
County have gone out.
Yeah.
Every time I go to the Dutchess County Fair, there's fewer and fewer dairy farms.
When I moved in the 70s here, there were 320 farms, and now there are 23
23 in the whole county?
in Dutchess County.
Wow.
Yeah, so that sort of says what's happening.
That says what's well, let me ask you, both of you, I don't know, maybe Norm, you can speak to this, but what is the government, what can be done to change this? This is such a disaster. Everybody loves the farmers and gives lip service to it, but it's almost like, what do you think could be done to change this situation so that small farms can survive and thrive? I mean,
I think with agriculture, it's always small steps. I think about it as always, what's the smallest thing that keeps me from competing competitively, being competitive with a farmer in Iowa or a farmer in Southern California or a farmer in Mexico, which we compete directly with product. And so when we pay $15 a kilowatt for electric and a hydro plant in the state of Washington gives them $3 a kilowatt, that's a big difference. When we pay $10 for labor and in Mexico they pay per day what we pay per hour, that's a big difference. When it's always about whatever the small competitive differences are. I
but
think
those add up.
they
and
add
creates
up.
a huge-
But I think one of the most important things in New York State is here we farm in areas where we don't have a farmer as a neighbor. We farm on what I call the suburban frontier. And here, the most important thing the state of New York can do for us is to enhance and enforce the right to farm law, absolutely, because when you're surrounded by people who have no idea how the production happens, and they have some idea about it that is their idea, often it's not that relevant.
Well, give me an example, because when I met you, you were
Well,
telling me
all right,
about
down in
what-
Westchester, for example, if you have a horse and a pasture, and you pasture, how do I say, if you farm to the property line. Well, in Westchester, they decided that if you have a horse in the pasture, and if the lot line setback is 25 feet for the house, the neighbor's house, then they decided the fence for the horse pasture should be set back 25 feet as well on your side. So that's 25 feet along your entire property line you can't use. It's not right. These things have to be
And
defended
also,
absolutely.
you had mentioned something about noise or something, or like people move up here, weekend people come, they
We
buy.
love our weekend people.
Right.
They're,
But
they help our economy. But we have to be allowed to farm in a sensible, responsible way. But we have to be defended for that sensible, responsible way.
Like they may not want the noise on their weekend or whatever, or they may complain about something that is, you know, that kind of
I think
thing.
their lawnmower makes more noise than my irrigation pump.
Right.
But my irrigation pump makes a living for me and makes food for thousands of people. All theirs does is cut grass.
And they're leaf blowers.
They
mean, no, you're right. But these are like, they may seem like minor issues, but they really aren't. And when we all go to the farmer's market and we buy things, and everybody knows they're superior to anything you could get at Hannaford's. And I can say that because there's no advertising on this show. So you go to these major stores that, I must say, Hannaford's does have a health food section, and they are trying to buy from local and regional suppliers, which is great. So I shouldn't say, they're terrible, but the large stores, by and large, don't want to deal with small. So, but the farmers market movement has been a very, very great boon to the farmers, right?
I think it's very important to understand that the best quality food comes from the area closest to where you live. The farther it's shipped, the more time it takes, the more likely in produce that it's harvested ahead of when it should be harvested. The farmers that ship to the West Coast tend to harvest a little bit on the unripe side because you've got to make sure that if it's soft fruit, it doesn't ship. So how do I say it? My mother used to offer me blueberries for dessert at night, and I said, well, when were they picked? And she said, well, they were just picked this morning. I said, no, thanks, I won't have the dessert. I'll eat them in the field tomorrow, because they taste that much better in the few hours. So the closer you are.
We always think it's fresh to pick it off and eat it right there.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
If you eat it in the field, it's all that. If you get it in a few hours, it's pretty good. But if you go through a wholesale chain, it's easy to be 24 hours out, or maybe 48 hours out by the time the customer gets it. Or if it's shipped from the West Coast, it might be 3 days out, or from Mexico. And it's important to shop locally. And it's not only important for the health of the agricultural economy, but it's important for the quality of the food that you eat.
Well, that's a great point, but I also I get an organic consumer newsletter via the internet, sent to me. One of the things that I've been very, very disturbed about, and I was curious to know what you think, is what's going on with Monsanto and the spraying of the corn and the crops, the GMO treated, genetically modified crops. What do you think about that? It's very frightening to me from what I've read. Can you speak to that? As a doctor also, I
think some of it is overblown. Some of it is, science is your friend.
Well, Monsanto is, excuse me, but I have to tell you, they are frightening.
Right, but I'm saying there's good science and there's science that's abusive science, all right? And there are certain seeds that the farmers who are growing a large amount of crop need to be sturdy in different kinds of weathers. And so they work with the genetics and crossing different seeds to get a more powerful stand of the corn. And that's good science.
Right, but the thing that bothers me is that this country was built on the small entrepreneur, that you could come here and you could start a business and you could make good. And that was the basis of this country's strength. And since then, we still believe in competition, but over and over again, the courts define competition as more than one. And so we've trended in this country to industries that have 2 or 3 suppliers for the entire nation, and it's true in meat packing, it's true in grain, it's true in dairy,
Cargo
it's true,
and all those
it's true in the airlines. And when the problem I have with Monsanto is when you decide that one company has a patent on how all our food is grown, I have a big problem with that.
Well, that's what's going on.
That's correct. That's
And the
correct.
Congress, many of whom are bought and paid for in the Midwest by Cargill, by Monsanto, they, people in the East Coast in our area may not be as familiar with this because we know the local farmers much more intimately than we do our, the Cargills and the big corn and all that.
Well,
But-
they want to control the seed totally.
Right.
And that you cannot germinate anything else but their seed, and that's unfair.
I have an issue with that.
That's a big issue.
Right.
The
But
other-
then they're controlling the food supply
Well, they
and
do if they control the
indirectly
seed.
controlling our health.
Correct.
Now, corn syrup was a prime example of that, which some people believe back in the 70s when Earl Butz was the agriculture secretary, and corn syrup was used, while corn was subsidized so much, they had so much of it, they had to create all these products, and corn syrup was one of them. And that has been linked to the obesity epidemic big time. In soda, corn syrup is ubiquitous.
Well,
So,
it's the sweetness. People, they get kids to taste it, and it's sweet, and it becomes addictive. And they know that it will sell product. Yes.
so, these are the kinds of things that they seem at little, like you say, well, more than one, so it's 2. If 2, then that's okay.
That's not good enough.
That's not a monopoly, right?
So when you take a company like Walmart that does predatory marketing, so they won't be undersold, and if they are undersold, they'll give you bring the receipt in, they pay it plus 10%. That's putting some small guy
Out
out
of business.
of business, and he can't compete with that. She. That's not right. And the fact that the courts allow that to happen, it's not right.
Right, and they do, and they are going to continue to do it until people boycott. I mean, I think that I do not go into Walmart.
Or change the
I will not go in that store.
Or change the legislation.
Yeah.
Well,
But legislators have no backbone. Okay, that's the bottom line.
they're
As far as I'm concerned, they have
exactly.
no backbone. The classic for us in dairy is the Dean Foods debacle. They have class action lawsuits, and
Could you explain that? Because
they
I don't
had
know.
manipulated the pricing. The price of milk in this country is determined by the federal order, and it's based on how milk is used. Class 1 is milk that's drank, excuse my French. 2 is yogurt, 3 is cheese, and 4 is butter. So based on the usage of the same quality milk, same milk, that's how the farmer gets paid, called the blend price. So a classic example of how you could help the dairy farmer. Yogurt is a big industry today, and has helped Western New York.
Right,
But yogurt is a Class 2 milk, so the farmer will be receiving what the Class 2 price is for that milk. It's like saying, I'm in history, I have 4 exams, I have a 90, a 70, a 60, and a 40. Do I want more 40s or do I want more 90s?
so
Well,
those,
they're getting more 40s, they're not getting 90 to Class 1 price. And if the federal legislation would change that yogurt consumption, the yogurt use would go into a Class 1 price, then you would raise the bar for all dairy farmers.
I
Then
didn't
you'd make a
realize that.
difference. With Class 2 milk being priced that way, you're not
Right,
helping
but-
dairy
But
industry.
you need to understand the politics, we're 100% consumers, and we're 1% producers.
Correct.
So
We don't
no,
vote.
no one wants the price of food to go up, and if the price of milk or eggs goes up even slightly, everyone's outraged. Everyone's outraged.
but yet oil and gas go up.
Right.
At the
And
behest of the oil companies,
everyone's
right?
outraged.
Right,
Yeah.
but they are manipulated by the corporations, not the government. See,
But
the
I argue
government,
that little change of 2 cents per pound of milk weight would have insignificant effect on the price of the
I was
final
gonna
product.
say, how much?
In the store.
Right.
How much
Absolutely,
would
it
it-
would not. The packaging costs us more than the product in the
Right.
shelf. That's just a great myth they're passing on.
Right.
But,
Okay.
I mean, there are, I don't know, but I remember Kirsten Gillibrand at one point represented the farming
She's a
district.
strong
And she
advocate,
fought
yes.
for a lot of the small farms.
She does.
It's, I think it's important, and one of the things I was gonna, I'm doing this show because of that, to get the word out to people without ownership of the forum on what they can do to alleviate these kinds of situations. And if you have any thoughts, and I mean, short of writing their Congress people, which most people don't do.
That's always a good start, though.
Yeah, I
And
agree.
better to go see them.
Oh.
Better
like
to
a
go
lot.
see them.
But why don't the farmers have a lobby day in Albany? I
They
mean,
do.
the
They do.
pro-choice people do.
Sure,
there's-
no, the farmers have their lobbyists, they're part of the co-op, we belong to Agrimark, which is Cabot. They have a lobby,
Oh,
but
yeah.
their pockets are not quite as deep as the big guys. And let's
is
face
true.
it,
yeah, it's-
greenback talks,
Yeah.
okay, and whose campaign do you underwrite the most?
No, this is.
Who listens? So
This
it's
is
an
true.
issue, it's an issue. The other point that Craig brought up that's significant, the local economy is benefited by the agriculture here. I mean, specifically cows themselves, each milking cow in this local economy contributes $1,500 to the local economy.
Really?
All right?
That's
So
an
if
interesting
we
statistic.
So we represent now 2,000 cows, that's what we do annually to this economy.
We
It
need
stays
more
here.
cows.
We need more cows,
Right.
because the reality is, cows and farms do not require a lot of services. You don't see too many policemen going to farms, you don't see too many firemen going to farms, they do not have that many children going to schools, all right, so they put a
Low
lot into the
maintenance.
economy. Yeah, they do,
Right,
they
yeah,
do,
low
and
maintenance.
they preserve the open space, so they have a lot of advantages.
But they're disappearing. They're
Because they
not
can't afford to
reappearing.
stay.
Yeah.
They can't afford to work
This-
for more than you receive.
The dairies are disappearing, but there's a new
Resurgence.
there's a new generation of young farmers, small farmers, who are selling direct, and many through CSAs, that's the community supported
Right,
agriculture.
right.
And that's that and farmers markets are the new way that the farmers and the consumers are getting close, and it's a wonderful thing.
And I noticed too, I've been going to the winter market. They
Mm-hmm.
actually have twice a month in Kingston a winter market, which is a new thing too. It used to be the farmers markets were May through October roughly.
Right.
But now, because when I updated my guidebook, I remember all these winter markets have started just since I wrote the farm book in 2009. So that's a great thing, because in the winters you get different, maybe root vegetables, you get different things, but like you say,
And
it's
this-
local.
And this
Yeah.
Hudson Valley Farmers Market we started at the Greig Farm is now, it's every Saturday, year round, every Saturday.
Oh, it is every, oh,
We
okay, I
start-
was gonna ask
we
you
started
about
the-
that.
We started the 1st of December, but it's every Saturday year round.
That's great.
And the public appreciates the flavor and the taste of a quality product, and the fresher the better. I mean, same thing, the average gallon of milk in this country travels 1,100 miles.
Well, you should come to his farmer's
Yeah.
market and sell the Hudson Valley
Right.
Fresh, and I'll go there and I'll be able to get it
Yeah,
finally.
right. Yeah, we'll put it in the cooler.
Yeah, put it in the cooler. No, it's,
Right.
it
Well, that's the
really is,
reality.
yeah, no, it's interesting that when I interviewed some of these farmers, every one of them had a different way of surviving. They were real survivors. One of them was talking about giving land to the Duchess Conservancy, and that was one way of getting around. There was some financially beneficial thing that was going on.
Well, sure, it's a Band-Aid for a while, until
Exactly.
you use up that money.
It helps this generation, but
That's- it
I
doesn't help
worry
the
about
gen-
the next
It doesn't
generation
help
on
the
that.
next,
Yeah.
that's the issue.
Yeah.
You need to be able to sustain yourself from the fruits of your labor. That's the reality.
Right.
So the next generation will come in and be able to sustain themselves, and that's the problem. And if you just sell the rights, you get a lump sum of money
Once.
once.
I see.
And that's it. And you have to stay in agriculture.
I see.
That's great, but you have to make a
complicated.
living.
But what I found was the young farmers I interviewed, it was fascinating. They were doing spreadsheets to figure out which crops and where they were doing. One of them leased land from an older farmer. She didn't buy it. And I think you're right. I think there's going to be a very different landscape when these young people, are in it for another decade or so, because
Diversification is critical. You can't,
Right.
especially with the weather. I mean, diversifying in different vegetables, fruits. A lot of dairy farmers rent a lot of land, crops. They harvest soybean, corn, and hay to supplement their income. And some I did was registered Holsteins. I had calves that I would sell offspring and that brought extra income.
People ask me which is the most profitable crop for me, and the truth is it's a different crop every year, because
Depends on the weather.
one year strawberries will do incredibly, and another year blueberries will do better, and some years apples are better, but you never know which
Isn't
it
it?
is.
But that was what was so remarkable to me about talking to all these farmers. I just thought they have the government to contend with, the weather, the price of milk, and everything
And the
else.
price
You
of
know,
fuel.
and the price of fuel. It's just, it was an ongoing struggle. But anyway, I appreciate both of you coming here today, taking time out of your very busy day to talk to me and to talk to the people in the Hudson Valley and enlighten them.
It's my pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
Well, thanks for joining me, really. Good night.